They never saw it coming. Not because you planned revenge, because you stopped. You went quiet. You disappeared from their world entirely and started building one they will never be invited into. That silence? That was the weapon, and it is already working. Most men think revenge is loud, a confrontation, an exposure, a moment where everyone sees. But the Stoics discovered something those men never will. The loudest revenge leaves scars on both of you, the silent kind. The kind that comes from becoming, that leaves a mark only one of you can see, and it is not you. Here is the line this entire video is built on. Write it somewhere. Say it out loud. Real revenge is not what you do to them. It is what you become without them. Read it again, because by scene 50 of this video, you will feel that line in your bones, not just your head. You know the moment. It is 3 a.m. The room is dark. Everyone else is sleeping, and your mind goes back, not forward. Back to what they said, what they did, the version of you that trusted them, the version that did not see it coming. You run that scene over and over, looking for the frame where you should have known. This specific pain is not the same as regular betrayal. What makes this kind of wound different, what makes it go deeper than a knife, is the part where you trusted your own judgment. And your judgment was wrong. They saw through you before you saw through them. That is the specific shame that sits in your chest at 3 a.m. Not just the betrayal, your failure to see it. And then, maybe worst of all, they moved on. They did not collapse. They did not suffer the way you expected them to suffer. They kept going. They are laughing somewhere right now. Maybe they have already replaced you, and you are here, still running the tape, still giving them your nights, still letting them live rent-free in the one space they never deserved, your mind. Here is what no one tells you about this kind of wound. The person who hurt you has already stopped thinking about you, but you are in a loop, a prison of replay. The replay is not remembering. It is rehearsal. You are rehearsing the conversation you will never have, the explanation they will never give. And every time you run it, they win one more day of your life. There is a specific thing that happens in the brain when someone you trusted uses your silence, your openness, your loyalty against you. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman's work on social cognition found that when our model of a trusted person is violated, when someone we predicted would protect us instead harms us, the prefrontal cortex goes into a kind of override loop. It keeps simulating the betrayal, not out of weakness, because it cannot update the prediction without resolution. That simulation loop, your brain running the betrayal over and over, is not just exhausting. Research on repetitive negative thinking patterns published in Clinical Psychology review shows it actively depletes the cognitive resources you need to plan, build, and act. In simple terms, every hour you spend replaying what they did is an hour your brain cannot use to build what comes next. They are not stealing your future directly. You are handing it to them, scene by scene. And here is the brutal precision of this trap. Your brain is not looking for revenge. It is looking for resolution, closure, an update to its model of the world. But the person who could give it to you, the explanation, the apology, the acknowledgement, either will not give it or cannot. So your brain keeps cycling, and they keep taking space in you that belongs to no one but you. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years before neuroscience confirmed it. They called it prosoche, self-attention, the practice of catching the mind mid-loop and redirecting it. Not suppression, not denial, redirection toward what is inside your control, toward what can be built, toward the only thing that can give your brain the resolution it actually needs. Not their explanation, your becoming. Let me tell you a story about Marcus Aurelius that almost no one tells. It is 169 AD. His co-emperor and closest brother, Lucius Verus, has just died. Marcus is left alone to carry the entire weight of Rome. But that is not the wound. The wound is this. In the years before his death, Lucius had slowly, quietly undermined Marcus. He took credit in public. He contradicted policies in front of the Senate. He enjoyed pleasures Marcus had quietly sacrificed, and Marcus said nothing. Marcus could have stripped Lucius of titles. He could have had him remembered poorly. Emperors controlled their own histories. He could have let the grief become a public performance of his own virtue by contrast. He did none of it. He gave Lucius a full state funeral. He spoke of him with dignity and in private. In his meditations, he wrote one devastating line: "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." But here is the human moment. Marcus wrote in his meditations, not for anyone to read. These were his private journals, that the loss of those close to him felt like tearing away something that had grown into him. He was not stone. He was not unfeeling. He was a man who felt the full weight of being used, diminished, left behind, and he chose, deliberately, painfully chose, to turn that weight into fuel, not fire. This is why this story matters. We always see Marcus Aurelius as the marble statue, the philosopher king, calm, untouched. But the real Marcus was a man who was quietly used by someone he trusted deeply, a man who had every form of power to destroy that person and chose not to, not out of weakness, out of a principle that this video is entirely about. Silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. Silence is the becoming. After Lucius died, Marcus ruled for 11 more years. 11 years of building, legal reforms, military campaigns where he fought at the front, philosophical writing that has lasted 2,000 years. The man who diminished him quietly is remembered only as a footnote to Marcus's story. That is the architecture of silent revenge, not a confrontation, a construction. You build something so large that their shadow cannot reach it. The first foundational Stoic principle you need for this specific situation is the dichotomy of control, but not the textbook version, the version that actually applies here. What is in your control right now? Not their explanation, not their guilt, not their awareness of what they did. One thing, the direction your energy moves from this moment. That is the entire territory you own. And most men are giving it away, one replay at a time. Here is the thing about energy that most men do not understand. Until they are exhausted, you have a finite amount of it per day. Anger, grief, replay, obsession. These are not free. Every ounce of psychological energy you burn on them is an ounce you cannot spend on the thing that will actually solve this, the thing that will make their actions irrelevant by making you undeniable. The Stoics called it the economy of attention. Your attention is currency. Stop spending it on a debt they will never pay. The second principle is amor fati. Love your fate, including the parts that broke you. This does not mean pretend it did not happen. It does not mean tell yourself you are grateful. It means this: the wound is now material. What they did to you is now raw material for what you will build. The betrayal is not an interruption to your story. It is the event that makes the next chapter matter. Marcus wrote it differently. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wrote that during years of plague, war, and quiet betrayal, he was not writing poetry. He was writing instructions for himself, for the specific condition of being a man who has been used and must decide what to do next. The wound is not the obstacle. The wound is the path. Third principle, and the one that will feel coldest at first. Memento mori. Remember, you will die, not as darkness, as precision. You have a limited number of days. Every one of those days you spend inside the loop they put you in is a day gone. Irretrievable. They will not be at your deathbed returning that time. No one gets a refund on days spent in resentment. The clock has been running since the moment they did this. What have you built in that time? I know exactly what you are thinking right now. You are thinking, but they should face what they did. It is not fair that I carry this and they carry nothing. You are right. It is not fair. Hold that for a second. It genuinely is not fair. And the Stoics never asked you to pretend otherwise. Fairness is real. Your anger is valid. But here is the distinction that changes everything. Valid anger and useful anger are not the same thing. Your anger at what they did is valid, but the question the Stoic asks is not, is this feeling real? The question is this feeling serving me? Is the replay building your future? Is the obsession with their lack of accountability making you stronger? Or is it burning fuel you need for something else? Validity and utility are two different conversations. You can honor the first and still choose the second. Here is the other thought you have had. The confrontation fantasy. The moment where you face them and say everything perfectly, and they finally understand the damage they caused. You have run that scene, maybe hundreds of times. I need you to hear this, not as criticism, but as someone who has watched men waste years on this fantasy. That confrontation, even if it happened exactly as you imagine it, would not give you what you are actually looking for, because what you are looking for is not their acknowledgement. It is your own. Think about what you actually want when you imagine them finally understanding. You want to feel that your pain was real, that the version of you who trusted them had value, that you were not wrong to be the person you were with them. But here is the thing, and this is the thing that changes the entire equation. None of that requires them, not a single piece of it. The validation you are looking for from them already exists inside you. It has been waiting this entire time. You do not need their confession to give yourself permission to move on. You do not need their guilt to validate your injury. You do not need their awareness of the damage to begin repair. The moment you understand this, truly understand it, not intellectually, but in the gut, the loop breaks. Not because you have forgiven them, not because you no longer feel the wound, because you have stopped requiring something from someone who either cannot or will not give it. Now, the revelation, the thing I want you to pause on. Here it is. The most destructive thing you can do to the person who silenced you, diminished you, used your trust against you, is to become so visibly, undeniably, quietly excellent that the world tells your story without you needing to say a single word, not because it hurts them, but because it removes the one thing every person who betrays someone like you is gambling on, that you will collapse without them. Every person who uses someone's loyalty, then discards them, is making a silent wager. They are betting that you will fall apart, that you needed them more than they needed you. That whatever you were together, you cannot be alone. And for a while, maybe a long while, it looks like they are right. The 3 a.m. loops, the loss of direction, the identity confusion. It looks like they won the bet. They have not won yet. Here is when the wager turns. Not when you confront them, not when you expose them, when you appear somewhere, or your work does, or your name does, and the people around them see what you became, without them, despite them, because of what they forced you to build, when they took away what you thought you needed. That moment, when they see it, that is the revenge the Stoics designed. Wordless, permanent, theirs to carry, not yours. And the most devastating detail of this particular revenge, it requires nothing from you in the moment it lands. No speech, no dramatic return. You are simply living the life they told themselves you could not live without them. They run into your name in the world, and it is larger than it was when they left. Your silence, your refusal to collapse, your refusal to perform your pain. It has been speaking the entire time. They thought you were quiet. This is the part where I need you to stop the video for a moment. Not literally, but inside yourself. Because everything I am about to give you in the next section, the 3 specific steps, only works if you have arrived at one decision. The decision that you are not going to spend another day building a case against them. You are going to spend your days building yourself. The evidence is not the argument. The evidence is the life. Step 1. Tonight, before you sleep, you do the Stoic evening audit. But not the generic version. This version has one specific question. What did I build today? Not, what did I accomplish? Not, was I productive? What did I build toward the life they said I could not have? Toward the version of me that makes the wager they made on my collapse look like the worst bet they ever placed. Write one thing, one brick, every night. Here is why this specific practice is designed for this specific pain. The loop that keeps you awake at night, the replay, is your brain looking for evidence that the world makes sense again. One brick per night gives it exactly that. Not resolution from them, resolution from you. Proof that what they did not stop the building. That the structure of your life is still under construction. That you are the architect. They were, at most, a contractor who walked off the job. Step 2. Disappear from their orbit. Deliberately and permanently, not dramatically. No announcement, no goodbye post, no last word. You simply stop appearing in the spaces where you can be compared to who you were. The Stoics called it strategic withdrawal. You are not hiding. You are building in private. Every day you spend visible to them while you are still rebuilding is a day they see the work in progress. Let them see only the finished version. This step is not just emotionally right, it is mechanically right. When we perform our rebuilding for an audience, especially an audience that hurt us, we get the dopamine hit of the performance and stop short of the actual work. Psychologists call this substitution. The feeling of progress replaces progress itself. Invisibility is not weakness. It is the condition under which real transformation happens. Build where no one who doubted you can see the scaffolding. Step 3. Every time the loop starts, every time something triggers the replay, you do not fight it. You do not suppress it. You redirect it. You feel the fire of it for exactly 30 seconds. Acknowledge it is real. Then you ask, what is the most useful thing I can do with this energy right now? And you do that thing. The Stoics called this turning pathos into logos. transforming raw emotion into directed reason. You use the fire. You do not become it. I want to be specific about the 30 seconds because this is the piece most men skip. If you suppress the feeling entirely, deny it exists, it will return larger. If you feed it time, sit in it, replay it, analyze it, it grows. 30 seconds is long enough to be honest about the pain and short enough to refuse to live there. Set a timer if you have to. Feel it fully. Then ask the question. Then move. The 30 seconds is not weakness. It is the full acknowledgement that fuels the redirection. Let me tell you about Admiral James Stockdale. He was shot down over Vietnam in 1965, captured and held in the Hanoi Hilton for 7.5 years, tortured, isolated, used by his captors in psychological warfare operations. He could have broken. Most men would have. Instead, he spent those years doing something his captors could not see or touch. He built a philosophy inside himself, specifically Stoic philosophy, that no cell could contain. While imprisoned, Stockdale secretly organized the resistance among American POWs using a tap code on the walls. Every prisoner who held on did so partly because of the philosophy. Stockdale passed through stone walls in silence. When he was released, he was not broken. He was forged. He returned to the United States, became a 2-star admiral, a vice presidential candidate, and wrote on Stoic philosophy for the rest of his life. The men who used him as a prop never became anything but that. And then there is Boethius, Roman senator, consul, one of the most powerful men of his era, falsely accused of treason by the very king he served loyally, imprisoned, awaiting execution. He could have spent that time in rage and grief. Instead, he wrote The Consolation of Philosophy, a book that became one of the most read works in medieval Europe. He wrote it in prison. In the months before they killed him, what they did to him made possible the only thing that made him permanent. Frederick Douglass was enslaved, brutalized, and silenced by a system that used his labor and denied his mind. He did not shout back. He learned to read in secret, a punishable act. He read Cicero's speeches in stolen minutes. He built his rhetoric, his argument, his philosophy quietly, invisibly, in a world that was betting on his silence being permanent. When he finally spoke, the system that had used him had no language adequate to contain what he had become. Stockdale, Boethius, Douglass, 3 different centuries, 3 completely different situations, but one exact mechanism. They were each placed in conditions designed to produce their collapse, and each of them quietly, without announcement, without witnesses, turned the condition into fuel. None of them started with the finished version. None of them had permission. They built in the dark, and what they built outlasted every person who counted on their silence being surrender. There will be a night, I cannot tell you when the loop goes quiet for the first time. Not because you have healed completely, not because you no longer feel it, but because you realize something has shifted. The energy you used to spend on the replay has quietly moved somewhere else. It is going into the building. The anger is still there, but it is under something now. Under the work, under the discipline, under the accumulation of bricks laid while they were not watching. They expected someone diminished. They expected the version of you they broke or tried to break. What arrives is something they cannot categorize. It is not the person they knew, and it is not a broken version of that person. It is someone made of different material entirely, harder, quieter, unreadable. This warmth is still there, but it is deeper, earned, not given away freely. They will reach for the language to describe you and find that the old language does not fit anymore. And then, one day, you realize you have stopped counting how long it has been. You stop needing to track the distance from the wound. You are not marking days from the betrayal anymore. You are marking progress towards something. The wound is still in the timeline. It is simply no longer the last thing on it. That shift from measuring distance from pain to measuring distance toward purpose, that is the moment the silent revenge is complete. Here is the final thing I want you to understand about the pain that brought you here. It gave you something. I know how that sounds. I know the part of you that wants to argue with it. But let me be specific. The version of you before this wound trusted certain things without evidence, gave loyalty without contracts, opened doors without looking first. That version of you had beauty. It also had blind spots. The wound closed them. What you lost was real. What you gained, the precision, the depth, the uncompromising clarity about who actually belongs in your life. That is also real. Both things are true. You are becoming the version of yourself that cannot be collapsed by a single person's withdrawal of approval. You are becoming someone whose foundation is not located in another human being's choices. You are becoming, and I want you to feel the weight of this word, indestructible, not invulnerable. Indestructible. There is a difference. Invulnerable means unhurt. Indestructible means that what tries to destroy you becomes part of the structure that holds you up. Look at what this specific wound, this exact situation, has done to you. It did not make you bitter. It made you selective. It did not make you closed. It made you precise. It did not take your capacity to care. It took your willingness to throw that care at people who have not earned it. You are not harder. You are more careful with something valuable, and the men who become more careful with what is valuable in them, those are the men who build things that last. That is who you are becoming. They could not silence you by speaking over you, but they could not stop you either, because you had already decided to let your life be the argument. If this video reached something in you, save it, not for later, for the 3 a.m. nights, for the moments the loop tries to start. And if you have someone in your life who is right in the middle of this specific pain right now, send it to them without explanation. They will know why. The next video continues exactly where this one ends. Stay close.